You're listening to Drummer Daily, the only daily podcast just for drummers. Hey, if you want to get better at playing with a click track, and who doesn't, go to boomclick.net/start today. Yo, welcome back again to Drummer Daily. I am so happy you're here. I know I say that a lot, but it's genuinely true. I'm so happy you're here. And I love that we get a chance to talk about drums, and if this is a part of your daily routine, I love that we get a chance to talk every day about drums. And even if we don't get a chance to play drums full time, we get to at least kind of think about something drumming related. And if we're not sitting behind the drum kit right now playing, we're at least thinking about some things that maybe we can use the next time we sit down to play, which is the point of all this. I hope that you're not just listening to my podcast and just watching YouTube videos or doing whatever else and not actually sitting behind the kit and playing. I know it can be addicting to learn, get learnitis. I know I do that with business stuff. I get addicted to learning and I don't actually do anything. So I hope that's not the case for you. I don't think it is. I bet you're doing awesome. So today, I've gotten a few questions about this, and I've actually seen it pop up in a few forums and other places, so I thought I would kind of throw my take on this. And that is, what do we do? How can we make the most / the best out of finding ourselves behind an electronic drum kit? I know that for a lot of us, and this is definitely me included, there was a time when I first got married, we lived in an apartment and definitely didn't have the ability or the option of playing real drums in an apartment. And so I had the electronic drum kit. I had a set of Roland V drums that I played with, and struggled as I'm sure if you've ever played electronic drums for a long period of time, you know what that struggle is. Or I know if you play real drums at home, but maybe you play drums at church and they make you play an electronic drum kit there, it can be so tough to make that transition and make that work. So I thought I would kind of throw a couple of ideas out of ways to kind of make the most out of the situation. And so let's say I've got one really practical thing. I've got three things total. So I'm gonna have one really broad thing, and then I'm gonna kind of narrow it down with a second, and then really narrow it down with a third. Kind of a few tips for playing electronic drums, playing e-drums. All right, so the big overall tip that I have for you, if you find yourself in a situation where you're gonna have to play electronic drums a lot, is to embrace the fact that you are limited. So what I mean by that is, I know there's a lot of artists like painters and stuff who've gone through periods of time, they always talk about, Picasso. He had this blue period where he painted with blue all the time, and that's an artificial limit that he placed on himself, and he only used that color or used a lot of that color. I don't really know much about art, but I know for me, for example, I used to play, my drum setup used to be just one floor tom, no rack tom and minimal cymbals. And sometimes I would do just a kick and a snare. I did a whole tour with All Sons and Daughters where it was a stomp box and a cajon snare and one cymbal. So all that to say, limitations sometimes can bring about a lot of creativity. And so I want you to kind of approach it maybe as an opportunity, playing an electronic kit, as much as you may not want to, because I know a lot of times when people get confronted with you're going to have to play electronic drums, a lot of times people are like, oh no, and it seems like a challenge. But I say approach it like an opportunity, because it can be. You can find some really cool things to do with electronic drums. And that kind of leads me to point number 2, which is a little more specific, and that is choose to play electronic drums like they are, as a different instrument. They are not acoustic drums. So I think a lot of times, I know that I see other situations like this, so maybe I'll talk about this in another episode, but I see us as drummers a lot of times trying to make this instrument sound like that instrument. Can I make the suitcase sound like a kick drum? It's like, well, if you're gonna spend all this time to make the suitcase sound just like a kick drum, just play a kick drum. There's no point in playing a suitcase. The same thing can be said about electronic drums. we can do our best to try to mimic acoustic stuff, but sometimes it's just not going to work, depending on the quality of the sounds built into the drums, for example, the quality of the pads you're playing on, all kinds of things can come into that. And so I would just say embrace the differences, embrace that the sound is going to be different, and kind of play to that sound a little bit. I don't have do this or do that, but I would just say find something that works and then kind of play with the sound that you're getting from it. And that can apply to a lot of other things as well. Like I said, if you're doing like a Sunday at church where you're kind of playing a broken down set where you have all the acoustic instruments or whatever, embrace that. Don't try to make things sound bigger than they are. Don't try to make things sound different than they are. Embrace the sound that you're getting from the instrument. And then something really specific. So I did say don't try to make the drums sound real if they're not sounding real or whatever, but I will give you one piece of advice, and this is the coolest thing I discovered actually back when I did first get married and we were living in an apartment. When I discovered, and there's more than one of these, so this is just the ones that I know, but I discovered Superior Drummer, which is a piece of software for your computer. And the company TuneTrack that makes Superior Drummer, they also make Easy Drummer, which is a little cheaper. But now Superior Drummer and Easy Drummer, as a product, they're not just designed to I will say this, what they're designed to do is to help people who aren't drummers create drum tracks for their songs. If you're a songwriter and you want to get some drum tracks laid down that sound real, you use Easy Drummer, which is great. It works great. In fact, I use another one of their products called Easy Keys to help me make. I'm not a piano player very much, but I do enjoy writing songs or creating tracks for the things that I play, drums on like Instagram videos and stuff. So they make a product for that for people who aren't keyboard players to help write keyboard parts. So they also make Superior Drummer and Easy Drummer for people who are not drummers to make drum parts that sound real. But a part of Superior Drummer specifically, and Easy Drummer is this way too, is they have these amazing drum samples that have been recorded at professional studios and recorded in a way, there's a lot of geekery that I know about, but it's not worth me explaining it all on a podcast. But I will say they've done some cool things with the samples and how they get played back when you play them to make the drums sound astonishingly realistic. So realistic that back then I was actually recording drum tracks for albums on these electronic drums. They sounded that real, cymbals included, which is a tough thing to do. But the way it works is you can plug your electronic drums in via MIDI. So a lot of the little drum brains that come on electronic drum sets have a MIDI out. I know some new ones have USB as well, which makes it really easy. But the V drums I had were really old. So they had MIDI out. And so I would plug that MIDI cable into a little converter box and then plug that into my computer that was running Superior Drummer. And then by magic, without having to really configure anything, those E drums were now triggering those sounds built into Superior Drummer on my computer. So then I would just run, I would either plug, the audio output from the headphone output of my laptop into, the direct boxes, and instead of plugging the audio cables, the sound system into the drum brain, I'd plug them into the computer, and the sounds would come out of the computer into the sound system, and we'd have these awesome new drum sounds to play with. So that would work, or I might use an audio interface, like a recording interface that had a bunch of outputs where I could, you could route every single channel. So you might have like a kick channel, a snare channel, just like you would if you mic'd them all up. But anyway, that's kind of a specific thing. If you do want that real sound, and I will tell you this, when I was at home, definitely playing live, I mentioned, you can embrace the differences that E-drums provide you with. But if you're at home and you're practicing all the time on E-drums and you just miss the sound and the feel of drums, real drums, getting something like Superior Drummer, there's some other people who do drum samples like this, little libraries. Something like that can really make practicing enjoyable and bearable. I know for me, it really made things enjoyable to have those realistic sounding drums as part of my practice routine. So there you go. A few things about E-drums. I hope this is helpful for you. And I hope that if you do find yourself behind electronic drums, whether all the time or just some of the time, that maybe you have a new perspective on it now and can embrace the opportunities that playing electronic drums provide. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.